Hi, I'm Seamless, and today I'm going to talk to you about what it means to be successful in the industry, to be successful, to make it, and that whole thing. I am frequently asked by my students, how did I get so big? How did I become known? How do they get known? How can they get the music out of people and that whole thing? And the answer to that question is not a simple one, especially in regards to what happened to me, because what happened to me is not at all obvious or normal or repeatable by people who actually want to be artists. Because you might notice that while I do have my own music and I do sell my own music, it's not a huge part of what I do. And it's always been making music in reference to this sort of educational content. The educational content has always been the main deal. Even back before I didn't even know I was doing the educational content, that was always kind of the thing that was going to happen. But the point I was trying to make is that I got to where I got to based on circumstances that unless you wanted to do precisely what I'm doing and precisely how I do it, you're probably not gonna be relevant to you. But whatever. But let's talk about what is relevant to you, about how sort of, because I am in the industry and because I have sort of made enough that I consider to be myself successful, and I can observe lots of people who are doing something similar. How do you do this? And this is tough because a lot about what people tell you about how to do the industry, what the industry is like, is based on kind of an outdated idea of what the industry even is at this point. And this is true for like all genres, all things, but mostly electronic stuff because it has a very unique relationship between its artists and labels. Um, Electronic labels are less likely to try and sign long-term deals for artists and exclusive stuff and that kind of thing, just because it's more profitable for lots of labels to do lots of singles, lots of individual things, and basically treat individual artists like contractors. And that's kind of how the entire industry revolves at this point. But in terms of like, let's say you actually have music. It's good. It's nice. It's pretty good. It's all right. It's presentable. It's solid. How do you make a name for it? If nothing else, um, if nothing else, your music is solid. You don't have to worry about the music. You just have to worry about every other thing. You get worried about image, promo, sort of your contacts in distribution, and the whole shebang. So if you don't have to worry about music, how do you go about doing everything else? Well, um, this depends on kind of what you want to do in the industry. Based on most people's discussion, I'm going to assume that you want to have a kind of like, you want to live off of your music, you want to be able to make music and make money off of it, you want to have a relative, well, no a reasonable amount of fame. Some people even want to be the biggest and the most famous or whatever, and this sort of does still apply to that, but it's just not going to be as effective. And that's just for anybody because that's just not something that happens super often, just statistically speaking. But let's talk about what you can do. So the first thing that you should do if you've got your music and you're pretty much good is make sure your name is on everything. Have I don't mean like contracts or whatever. I mean just like, don't send anybody any file, even if it like is a kick drum that you just made and you want to, like, it's only a beat, a 4-bar beat. And you're just kind of like, this is a whip. Put your fucking name on it. One of the biggest problems when I was doing track reviews and mixes is that people would send me tracks called like Dubstep 4 and like Electro Whip 2. I'm like, who made this track? Nobody knows. And like, what if somebody had sent me something actually, like something that I would be like, this is good. You can sign this to a label. And like, I want to give them props, but I don't know what they are because they didn't put the name, like that, of all reasons to fail. That is the dumbest. Put your name on your stuff. Related to that, make sure you've got all your social media ducks in a row. Like a lot of people, and this is a silly. Like, I can sort of see this if you're like a live band and you don't really want to deal with. You just want to be like, I have flyers, I have vinyl, and I have CDs, and you don't want to deal with the internet. You just want to be underground. You can do that. If you fucking want to do that, you can do that. But that's at the part where you're not really worried about being a professional. You just want to make art. You just want to make music. You don't really care about success. And in that case, if that's you, don't worry about anything I'm talking about. Just do whatever the hell you want to do. But if you're listening to what I'm talking about, you're here because you want to be a professional. You want to be paid for what you're doing. You want to live off of what you're doing. You want to make a name while you're doing it. This is why you're here. So I'm just not gonna. So like, and if you are somehow still an artist and you're just not, and you're just watching this because you like me, awesome. Then take everything I'm saying and add, but if you're you, don't give a shit. I'm just saying that. So now, anyway, social media ducks in a row. Make sure that you have, I mean, it helps if your name isn't just like a real word, like seamless, and that you have got something on it that makes so that if someone searches it, like seamless R, they only find you. But it's even easier if you got all your social media and all of your social media has the same link. Twitter.com/seamlessr, Facebook.com/official seamless because I changed the name and I can't change it back. SoundCloud.com/seamlessr, YouTube.com/seamlessr. Super easy. I don't even have the other ones like Instagram or I think actually I might have Instagram. I don't, all the whatever. But if I did, it'd be /seamlessr. And just make sure you do that. Make sure you got like a logo, which I understand is not as easy as it sounds. If you're not an artist, have something. Just even if it's just a picture with your goddamn name on it, have that. Make sure it's the same everywhere, so that nobody's confused when they go to something that's similarly named and doesn't have it. They can be like, oh, that's not this guy. They can just go to the one it is. It's all about making it easy for people to find your stuff. You want to have as little barrier to get to your stuff as possible. So yeah, do that. The YouTube, I qualify YouTube as a social media thing. Just have everything everywhere, and then whenever you post something, make sure you post it on everything at the same time. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Facebook video. That doesn't occur to a lot of people, but you should. And this has to do with a lot of nitty-gritty social media statistics about how it serves things, and Facebook only shows it to some certain percentage of people, unless it gets like more organic reach, and the YouTube only serves it to certain people. Twitter, so like if you do all of it, you have the highest chance of actually serving people. On the other hand, like an older technique of social media networking is email lists, and this is pretty much 100% serving. Anyone that's on the list gets their email, gets the update. If I wasn't lazy, I would have an email list. But if you want to go hard, that's something you should probably do. And having a website with a hub for all of this, which is also something I'm working on right now. But that's just have all the things going for you, that sort of stuff. It's actually pretty cool nowadays that you don't actually need to have a website because you can just hub everything on all the social media stuff because it's all integrated. And that's something a lot of people are just being like, but my privacy. And that's something you don't have anymore because you're essentially a public figure. This is something else about the professional stuff, is that it has the word professional in it, which means you need to be professional. This is why on the Seamless R accounts, I never take sides on anything. I don't have opinions on stuff. I try not to be inflammatory. I don't call anybody out. I don't engage in drama unless it's like the most harmless bullshit. Even that I probably shouldn't do. Because the second you come out and being like, I am for gay marriage, which might seem obvious, but the second you do that, like I just did, there's probably going to be some people who are being like, I don't like gay people. And that means I don't like you anymore because you support gay people. You alienate your viewers. And this actually has to do with why people often say don't meet your heroes. And this is because you formulate a vision of what these people are like in your head, and the second you hear them open their mouths outside of whatever it is that you know them for, they generally do something that you don't like. And if you don't do that, if you never hear them talk, if they never give you an opportunity to have that happen, then that means that the only vision they can have of you, if you're in this position, is the idealistic one. And you want that. You want that to happen. And so for me, I mean, I'm not really an artist, but I am still a public figure. So that means I have to keep all this in mind. And this is just, you don't want to do that. You don't want to engage in drama and stuff like that. You can answer questions. You can talk with, be as civil as you can possibly be. Be as non-committal and neutral and non-inflammatory, and just don't ever respond to hate. Don't respond unless, I mean, sometimes I do, and I'm this is more of a do as I say, not as I do kind of thing. But that's because I can afford to. And if you're some new dude and you create issues, and if some label that you're trying to submit to finds out you created issues, that's a strike against you. You don't want that. You want as little baggage as possible at all times for anybody. So just keep that in mind. Now, I had mentioned labels just now. So labels, what is a label? Why is that important, and why isn't it important? A lot of people grow up with this idea of just being like, someday I want to get signed to a label, as if that's some kind of benchmark for success. That may have been at one point, but it's not even close to that anymore. A label is not going to be the road to success that it once was. And a big indicator of the fact of this should be the fact that, oh my God, I remember when I was first becoming what I'm doing, and a bunch of kids would send me emails being like, yeah, we should collaborate. I've had 2 songs released by labels already, and they're 15, and it's not as if they're geniuses. They're not. They're just regular 15-year-old level producers, and they've been released by labels. that should tell you something. And I'm not saying that all labels are shitty, because obviously, there's Alsa, there's Monster Cat, there's Fixed. There's labels that do the job, but there's also 10 billion shitty labels because it doesn't take any effort at all to make a label. I should know. I did. Remember Amon Records? Remember that? That happened. But it has to do, like, what label's job in life these days is not even really about distribution anymore, because the internet basically took care of that. Distribution is not even really a factor anymore. It's about promo. It's about marketing. And there's this idea of self-promotion. This whole concept of being like, if you work hard enough at it by yourself, you will eventually get to the size that a label could do now. And this is true. If you have the patience and you can afford doing it, you could do it. I don't mean that you need to spend money. I just mean that you're not going to make money for a very long time if you do it by yourself. You might not really make money with a label. And that's a whole other thing about deals and contracts and shit like that. I might talk about that at some point. But it's sort of up to you about how much you need a label to do what they need to do. And do your research about a label, about what they've done. Find other artists, find new artists that they have, and see how they've grown or not grown. If they haven't, then it might be an indicator about how well it'll be for you. Do not harbor illusions about what labels are capable of. Even the big ones, even the giant ones. There are some. Can you name every Alsa artist despite being on Skrillex's label? Do you know all of them? If you go to the roster right now, I guarantee you'll find one that you've never heard of. And this is true for every single label. Even though they might have gotten even Monster Cat, labels that people know about that you know about. There's artists on there that you don't know about. And that should tell you something about what a label's capable of doing. When they don't really care, because chances are they don't heard about them. It's because the label didn't really invest a lot in promoting them. And so you have to think to yourself, why would they do that for you? And you have to have a reason why they would do that for you. And this comes back to sort of not necessarily about the music, although one part of it is kind of about the music. If you're doing something that's exactly what they want, or if you do something that's new and cool, they might be more into promoting it because it might be something successful. On the other hand, ingrained institutions generally don't want to go with risks. On the other hand, electronic music as a whole was pretty risk-free because the stuff's not super expensive to make on all fronts. So, there's a lot. Just do your research on that, about that kind of stuff. But on the other hand, image. What you look like as a person is who you are. What your logo, your image, that kind of thing. Deadmau5 has his head thing. There was an artist, I don't remember his name. This is how you know his image was effective. But I remember his image. His image was this dude in a black bodysuit with two gigantic white eyes, kind of like Spider-Man, but without the Spider-Man. And his image is super memorable. People remember that. I remember that. I don't remember who he was, but I remember that. And I kind of had this beard thing going on, which is that makes people remember that. So you gotta try and see what is it you can do to make yourself memorable, or at least something that you could do to make yourself marketable, which might not necessarily be this. It's memorable and all that, but I'm not like your 20-year-old or 18 teenager, stereotypical European shaved head, hot ripped guy. I can't make sexy music videos. That's not going to be me. And, if that's you have an advantage over me. You can use that, leverage every kind of advantage you could possibly think you have over anybody. And this is true for, when you're interacting with labels and that kind of thing. And then outside of that, there's all the other advice you probably ever heard about: spamming YouTube promo channels, publications, blogs, labels, that kind of thing. Don't really send demos to other artists unless they ask and have some kind of apparatus for it. Because I'll tell you right here, right now, if anyone even watched the video this far, I don't listen to anything anybody sends me. I never do. And it's not just because I don't want to, because I don't, but it's also because it's not fair to anybody. If I do actually listen to somebody and give them advice, and I don't do that for other people because I'm lazy and I don't want to do it, then not that they would know, but it's not fair to them. And I know, so I don't want to do that. So I don't give anybody advice anymore. It used to be a perk on Patreon that got out of hand. I used to do the track review thing, and that got out of hand. Although I am going to bring that back, but I'll have an apparatus for it. I'll have an actual submission thing. It'll have, guidelines, and it'll be great, and fields to fill in. And I won't have as many of the problems as I did, when people don't put their name on stuff. So don't send people things unsolicited. Don't do that. And a lot of people think you have nothing to lose. Well, you kind of do, because if you do that, and like I don't want to listen to it, or like the person you send it to doesn't give a shit, if they remember you at all, it's because they know that you spam them. And that means that later, if like you get in any kind of position where they might want to interact with you at a professional level and they remember you, it's not gonna go good for you. Because now they can just be like, this guy, fuck this guy. No, whatever. Because whatever it is that they're doing with you, there's probably going to be 30 other people that do what they do. Unless, and here's something else. Like this is all about when the music is kind of already good to go, but and this is all stuff that you can do even if your stuff is bland as shit. Even if your stuff is like a direct ripoff of just like popular artists that everyone listens to, and you do everything that I just said, you will probably be successful, and you'll probably just be able to sustain yourself, and that's probably fine. But there's kind of other ways to go. Like for example, me. Why do I have any kind of notoriety? I have the kind of notoriety that I do because I do something different, and I am one of the best people in the world that does what I do. I don't think it be, but it do. And it's kind of, it feels weird to say that, and it probably feels weird for you to think about something that you can quantify as being something that you're the best at. But if you are like ridiculously good at stuff that you do, then it matters less about the kind of mistakes that you do because you have a value beyond something that can be replaced by any other 15-year-old on earth. And that's what's important about marketing, is that you have to make people think they need you or know they need you above anyone else, and that they don't have a choice in the matter because you're the best. You're the best choice. You're the best. You have the best advantages. You're the best option to go with when choosing your demo, choosing to like your page, choosing to listen to your music, that kind of thing. That's the sort of stuff you want to go with. This is actually a big reason why a lot of hip hop artists are seemingly so full of themselves. They're just kind of taking that particular aspect to heart and trying to sort of ingrain with their listeners that they're the best. But I never wanted to play that game. I never wanted to do that. I really hate the non-musical, non-engineering aspects of promoting to get people to like you, to know about you. The image, the being attractive or having, some big noticeable thing, having some kind of gimmick. Like, I hate that shit. And that's why I never wanted to do that, and that's why I do tutorials. And that's sort of why I just being like, if I can't compete, with all these other advantages that they have, then I have to compete by being the goddamn best at what I do. And I'm not saying I'm the best at what I do, because I'm not. I am probably the best at what I do that actually deigns to tell anybody about what I do. But one thing I could probably claim that I am the best at is among everyone else that it does exist, is explaining the shit that I am pretty good at. Because there are artists who do sound design and make music and do things better than what I do, but they are not very good at explaining it, or they're just not gonna explain it. So among people that would ever present the stuff to you, I can safely say I am one of the best. And that's just the market, and that's why I have the advantages that I do, and I don't have to worry about stuff like my image or my look. I can be the slob that I am. I can have dirty ass studio. I can make music kind of whatever I want to do, because none of that matters in the face of my value as an engineer and my value as an educator. So that's hard to that's why I mean about earlier when I said it's not really relevant to you. It's hard to transfer into direct terms about everything else I just said about self-promotion and being professional and that kind of thing. But that is just marketing 101. This is economics. It's supply and demand. Like right now, the demand for EDM is high, but the supply is even higher, way higher. So that means that if you want to be in demand, you need to be something that there's not as much supply of. And for me, that's the tutorials about the stuff I talk about. The high-end sound design, the bass stuff, all the secrets that used to be secrets that aren't secrets anymore because I told them. That's my supply, and the demand for that is always going to be there. And then now the demand, now that people know this stuff, there's actually other people who are making tutorials on this stuff based on knowledge they got from me. And some of them will be successful. And it really doesn't matter how successful they are, because they're still coming in after me. I'm in on the ground floor, so I'm gonna be an institution forever. As long as I don't do something colossally stupid, or just do all the bad things, to do everything wrong. If I play it right, my stuff will be the things that people learn how to make music from, for as long as there is YouTube or a comparable video streaming service. I'll be 90, old and dead, and there'll be videos of me when I was 24 talking about how to sound like Skrillex. Like that's how the internet works, and that's how the fact that I'm doing this now, it works out. And not only that, but something I noticed is that there are a lot like there are a lot of other institutions like Silent Academy, Base Gorilla, Creative Live, and whatever. These people they take famous artists and they get them to teach. They get them to talk about their secrets and their abilities. And these artists are really good. These are really high end, respected people that like inspire me to do the stuff that I do. And they're just awful at talking about the stuff. And that's to be expected because they spend all of their time doing and not all of their time teaching. I spend all my time teaching. And I spend less of my time doing. I don't really make music. I make it as an example. I just do it to teach. And that's why I'm really good at teaching. And it just so happens I am also really good at this particular kind of engineering. There's lots of reasons for that, but like I said, not super relevant to most people who are trying to be successful. And so the rest, like all the stuff I might be saying, you're probably still waiting for that, like, silver bullet, that thing, like, oh, what do I do? Whatever. And like, honestly, even just putting your name on stuff is a big leg up for a lot of people, but like, there's not really a silver bullet. And most of this is because of what I said about supply and demand. Like, you might not have noticed that a lot of this discussion had almost nothing to do with the music. And this is because success in any kind of entertainment industry rarely has as much to do with the art as people would wish it did. And that's just the reality of any of that. And so that means that your success, if you want to force success, because you could remember I said about if you wanted to be underground, be an artist, just make music, don't give a fuck about whatever I'm just talking about. Just go do it. And if it works and it doesn't, whatever, who cares? But like, if you're trying to force it, if you're trying to actually be professional on purpose for real, then all of that has to do with marketing. It has nothing to do with the actual music. It's all to do with marketing. There is some aspect about the idea of the music and about the economics of marketing 101, the idea that the supply and demand kind of thing, do something that's more in demand, there's less supply of, then yeah. But what does that even mean now? Especially because music is way easier to make now than it's ever been. Recreating stuff, kind of my job, has made it way easier for people to do the stuff they want to do, which means that there's infinite supply of just about every kind of music there is. And the stuff that there isn't infinite supply of is also a proportional lack of demand. So you're kind of shit out of luck. Unless, like I said, you just are the best at whatever that is. Or you meet all of the professional requirements I mentioned about promotion. Have the name, have a name that you can search, have your name on everything, have all your social media in a row, have a logo that people can represent, have an image that's marketable, be professional with everyone that you meet and talk to. Don't spam artists, spam people who actually look for stuff like labels and promo channels and DJs, and make connections and then just make them and use them. There is one kind of thing I could say about in reference to what I did, and that is to do things that other companies can use as marketing material. Like, my relationship with ImageLine is pretty important for what I do. ImageLine promotes the stuff that I do because what I do promotes the shit out of FL Studio just by the fact that I use it and that it accomplishes what I do with it. So for them, like in the early, like the very first leg up I ever got was when I did a tutorial about Harmor resampling, the very first one, and they put it on their Facebook page because they're like, oh, look, someone's using Harmor to do cool stuff. It was a slow news day. Like Scott told me later, it was just a slow news day, and they saw this. I posted it in the ImageLine forums, and they put it up there and promoted it as being a demonstration of something that ImageLine stuff can do. And at the time, they had 400,000 Facebook likes, and a lot of fucking people saw the thing. And so that you could do something similar. Like, you can be M4 Sonic or you can be Maddie and do something with Launchpad and then get Novation to promote your stuff. You could do any kind of, like, popular music remixes, like, Weapon or pop culture. Like, that's also a pretty good idea marketing-wise to do that kind of stuff. Like Haywire's Smooth Criminal remix, that was a good move on his part. Remixes are generally, I mean, that's a lot of people know this, which is why oftentimes when I get spammed by people's SoundClouds, I go to look at it, it's 95% remixes and collaborations, no originals. So like that's kind of cool. That's another idea, but I get the idea that people already knew that. But the idea is being that like if you do something, like when someone's sponsored by somebody, like I'm as close to what it means to be sponsored by ImageLine. ImageLine doesn't actually sponsor anybody. We have the Power Users page, and that's pretty much it. But like an actual sponsorship is where like they get you things. They give you you have like your cymbals, you have their drums, you have their guitars, that kind of thing. And as a result, you do cool shit with it, and it makes them look good, and so they promote you. That's what it means to be sponsored. But you don't need to be sponsored to do that. Like if you get like a machine from Native Instruments to do some badass shit with it, and they're gonna put it there, and then they be a DJ and do cool stuff with the Tractor Scratch and like that kind of thing, then they get you to make a video for their channel, and then that's how I know. There's a lot of like Jeremy Ellis and DJ Uncut. I know who they are because Native Instruments made videos with them. Like that's a pretty big thing, in terms of getting notoriety. So like if you've got your music, then you do cool stuff with a company's things with your music, and they use that, to promo their own stuff, and then I'll get the promo reciprocally. That's pretty much how that works, and that's a big part, as I said, about what I do, about how I got as big as I did, and it's also like I lucked out in my choice to use FL Studio because I don't think any other company works like they do and are as good at like the sort of the promo and the PR side of things, and are as generous about it either. A lot of other companies like Ableton and Propellerhead and whatever Avid and all those people, they actually have like already established like automatic apparatuses for having like artist codes and discounts and that kind of thing in promo, and it's not even a little as effective as the stuff that Amazon can do, and they just do by just being people. And so it's not gonna work out as well if other things like that. I mean, one of the biggest leg ups I've ever had was the fact that my tracks are in FL Studio. So when you download a copy of FL Studio, you get my music. That was, I think, the biggest bump ever in my notoriety was that. And that's an extremely specific, extremely unique, and very difficult thing to kind of replicate, especially if you're not making music with FL, or even if you are making music with FL, since the whole point of that was that I made tracks that only used FL stuff. That was the revolutionary concept at the time. So that's a lot of stuff to keep in mind, which all comes again back to the idea of the whole marketing 101 thing, is that there are users who use FL Studio, and there are people who are just being like, I need to have FMA, I need to have Massive, for a lot of other successful marketing reasons that they think these things. And here I come in and shatter their idea about what the basic FL stuff can do, or not so basic, with the idea of Harmor and Citrus. And that was a big leg up and a big marketing thing, and supply and demand and synergy and all that stuff, and that you get the idea. So it's all a super delicate game of sort of cat and mouse with PR and image and marketing and that kind of stuff. And like I said before, very little to do with this conversation had to do with your actual music, which is a little sad, but I have a feeling that a lot of you knew this. I also have a feeling a lot of you knew already everything that I pretty much said, seemingly, except for the naming your song stuff. But and you're just looking for what the one weird trick, and that labels hate him, and why, and what secrets and that kind of thing, and then there just are not any. There aren't any. Do the stuff like I just said, all the stuff I said, to the best of your ability, make the music that you want to make. And even I was having a conversation with somebody on Reddit about the fact that like people make music that I hate that are popular, and it makes me happy whenever I find somebody that I hate that makes music that's bigger than I am, because that means that no matter who hates any kind of music that they make, if somebody hates your music, or if somebody thinks your music is bad, it is guaranteed that there's somebody out there who likes it anyway. There's somebody out there that likes exactly whatever it is that you did and wants only whatever it is that you did. And the fact that the internet exists means that people who like this weird stuff can find this weird stuff, provided you're easy to find, which comes back to having the social media ducks in a row, and the tagging, and the name, and the image, and the whatever. Like, if you just keep at it and you keep doing it, you will eventually build a big enough audience that you can survive off of. When you put something out, a lot of them will buy it, and you can just keep the machine rolling. Don't do stupid things like say inflammatory stuff to people. Don't take political sides. Don't engage in that stuff, so that you don't alienate your audience. If for some reason, like, I don't know, you get a lot of KKK members as fans. There's limits to that kind of stuff. It depends, I guess, on your stomach for atrocities. But in general, I mean, this is why a lot of people separate their artist life and their personal life. They're just kind of like, I say whatever I want is me, but then they are whatever they are as an artist. Thing is, though, for me in particular, that's a bit difficult because A, it's not that hard to find out what my name is, but B, I'm also way more involved with you as me as a person than any regular artist is. For most people, the primary interaction with an artist is at the time that they might have seen their tweet and they favorited it, that kind of thing. It's very rare that you have actual conversations with them outside of like really stilted, really socially awkward interviews that you see. So this is why that's weird for me, but that's what it means to be an artist, a normal artist anyway. Yeah. So I hope all of that was useful, and I hope I haven't totally crushed your dreams. I will say, on top of all of this, that as much as music is easy to make now, and and the technology is really cheap and accessible, the barrier to entry to making stuff that's good is just so low, and it's getting lower all the time. Like, it's not that our 15-year-olds are getting smarter, is that everything is getting easier. And it's going to keep getting easier over the years. Like 10 years from now, I can't even imagine what like the genre landscape is going to be like. But all the stuff that's popular now, I can guarantee you, are going to be saturated to death. Like there's this guy, he made a gent breakdown generator where it'll play like it'll make like it'll like actually program a song. And there are classical music generators because you can actually encode the rules for classical music, even styles based on composers, and computer generate entire classical songs. I will not be surprised if 5 years from now somebody makes a big room house generator. Like, not just a big room drop generator, but an actual whole-on, full-tilt big room house generator. And that's and maybe even a prog house generator or a deep house generator, any kind of house generator. Like, a lot of this stuff is becoming so formalized that I just got something's got to give, and something will. And eventually, we'll have new, the next wave, and that's just how music works. But if your goal is to have longevity, I wouldn't put too much stock in any one particular genre. That's just me, though. It's food for thought. If you have any questions about this stuff, and if I may have missed something that you might have thought about or wanted, whatever, ask me, and I will answer them. And as usual, have a nice day.